Welcome to the first episode of the Vaguely Recalled Review Show. The review show where I review things that I very vaguely recall. Now, in order for me to vaguely recall something, it has to be something that I consumed over 10 years ago and have not really thought about since, because I have an incredibly long memory and I think about most stuff all the time. But there are some things, like for instance, stuff that I consumed long ago and then sold and have not had time to think about since. Like, I've got video games I played 15 years ago, but it's still on my shelf, and every time I look at it, I think about it, and I'll never forget that. With some stuff, I vaguely recall. So let's go through a few. First of all, the GameCube game, Pac-Man World 2. This was a 3D platformer where you play as Pac-Man. It was total garbage. It had a, really basic level structure. You'd go to, an ice level, and you'd jump on platforms. Just no sense of world, no sense of anything, the challenge of the game was wrestling with the camera. The mechanics were you jump, I think you could roll, and I don't remember there being much to it. It was a very simplistic game, and it was total dog shit. Just the cameras alone made it nearly unplayable. And we had it when we were little, and we sold it. I just remember it looking and playing like shit. Very bad game for the GameCube. Likewise, let's see, vague reviews. Donald Duck Goin Quackers. That was an N64 game. It was like a side-scrolling platformer where you play as Donald Duck. And it was just really shittily designed and frustrating, if I remember correctly. I remember it being a game where it was just one of those where the controls didn't quite feel right. And the character models were too big and had too many moving parts for a 2D game. Which is kind of a common problem with licensed games, because they're trying to represent the character well, more so than create something that makes sense to play. That reminds me as well as of the Winnie the Pooh game for the N64, where you play as Tigger, I think, and it was just another side-scrolling platformer, but I remember that we literally got stuck on a level halfway through the game and just couldn't beat it, and fucking took it back. A Winnie the Pooh game was too hard for a 9-year-old to beat, because they fucking don't even try on licensed games. Here's a vague review. The anime series, what the hell was it even called? Spirit Hunter? No, Soul Hunter. I think that was it. Soul Hunter. Hoshin Engi. That one. That's the Japanese name. This was a show that I think I bought it on DVD. I had the full collection because it's really cheap. It was one of the first thin pack or Digi pack releases, even though it was a 25 episode show. And I remember having watched a few episodes and having no fucking idea what was going on, because I'm pretty sure it's an adaptation of a longer manga that just adapts not the entire thing, and so the plot in the anime just made no sense. And I know that there's some people, there's very rarely you'll meet these people who are really into this series. And I don't know if it's because they read the manga or they just really like the guy who did the manga. I think it's a guy who did some other series that's also good. But some people really like it. But the anime is nigh incomprehensible. And it's one of those where half the time it's a goofy slapstick series, but then other times it gets really serious and political. And I just didn't understand it as a kid. And I remember I watched it I tried to watch it and didn't get it, and then at some point I binge watched the whole thing, and just, it started to make sense at some point. I remember it, sometimes I got it, and sometimes I didn't. And then just at the end being what even was that? What the hell did I just watch? And then I think my brother Shade watched it, and for some reason he had liked it, so I just gave him the DVDs. I just gave him that complete collection. but he was like a little kid. Like he was like probably 8 or so when he watched it. So I don't think he understood much of it. I think there's something about it just clicked with him. And then like at some point he just didn't even like, he still has it in his collection. I don't think he remembers anything about it. I remember like asking him about it once, and he like literally didn't know even what it was about. You know, Shade always had, it was interesting that the stuff that Shade would get into, I think he just liked, you know, characters with like big clothes and like big swords and stuff, like stuff that looks like an MMORPG or something. And I know he was really big into the manga Blade of Heaven, which I never even tried to read, or it was like a manhwa, I think it was Korean, but yeah, he had all these volumes of Blade of Heaven, and I don't think I ever even read it, or I tried and I read a chapter and was like, this is fucking stupid, you know, and just gave up immediately. I don't know, weird shit. Anyway, that was the first episode of the vague review, the vaguely remembered review show. I hope you enjoyed that.